You're listening to the Femtrepreneur Show, and this is episode 22. In this episode, we're talking about our biggest lessons learned in 2016, including what we did right and the things we need to work on for next year. Hey guys, it's Mariah.
And I'm Megan, and Geraldine asked us, what were some of your hits and misses this year? What big lessons did you learn as a team? So I'm so excited to dig into this. Mariah and I have talked through 11 key lessons that we want to share with you guys.
Yeah, and I mean, we went through so many changes as a business this year, growing our team like really majorly and hiring people and growing our revenue and trying new things. And so we learned a lot. We tried a lot of things. We failed at a lot of things. So we'll talk about all of those things in this episode, and we'll just go through our biggest lessons. And all right, let's get started. So the first one is that we figured that we need to hire experts as opposed to trying to do everything ourselves. And one of the places that this sort of came into play was that in the beginning of the year, we were buying a lot of technical courses and programs that we were going to like teach ourselves how to, do Facebook ads is a really good example. We were like, okay, we'll get this course. We'll figure out how to do it in-house. We'll do it all ourselves. And what we realized was that we didn't have the time to do it ourselves. It didn't really make sense for us to invest our precious time and resources into learning something from scratch when we could just pay someone to come in, at their hourly rate, and they already know everything and we don't have to teach them how to do it.
Yeah, and I think another angle to this is not only not doing it yourself and learning when it's better to hire experts, but also hiring experts that are really focused. I feel like our team went from the two of us or the beginning of the year, the three of us doing kind of everything to a really great team of people working in their zone of expertise. Like we have experts that work on their expertise and everyone gets to be in that zone instead of feeling like they're doing too much. So I feel like it's been
specialists.
Yeah, that's a good way to phrase it.
Yeah, so I think everyone has their little role as opposed to like, we all are jack of all trades. We all do everything. It's like, so there's like one person who only does design, only does editing, only does customer service. And really that specialized roles has made such a big difference in everyone knowing what they have to do and getting really good at it rather than like being mediocre at everything.
Definitely. So I thought that was a great change that we made this year, that transition. And lesson 2 was that taking time off and resting is good. Now, I definitely think we agree we don't always love resting and taking too much time off. But I think we learned that, we took a bunch of time off this summer and nothing went wrong. Our business kept going. We kept making, kept bringing in revenue. And we learned that you can do less and still grow your business. So I thought that was an interesting. What did you learn from that?
I know for me personally, this whole year has been really crazy because I just feel so deeply like I worked significantly in like a state of like flow and rest. Like even when I was working hard, it didn't feel like last year, like 2015, where everything felt like I was just on the brink of death all the time. And it was like this feeling of like this, like, crushing headaches and overwhelm and like 20-hour days every single day forever with no end in sight. It wasn't like a sprint. It was like, oh, this is just how my life is. And this year has just felt like a complete 180 or whatever people say. I don't know what that degree is, but
180.
Just a complete change where it's like, oh, like everything, I can stop working at 5 or 6 if I want to. I oftentimes choose to work more, and I think that's kind of what you were touching on too, is like we did take significant time off this summer because I had visitors coming and we had like, you had a wedding and we had like all this stuff going on. And so and Bev had a baby. Yeah. So we all had these huge life things going on this year. So we took a significant amount of time off. I would say like we took like 6 full weeks off of like all of us pretty much being like not really working, but just having things running on like autopilot. And, it was just, it was restless. We all felt restless by the end of it. We all felt a little frustrated and like ready to get back to work and, having not having the things to work on. And I know that we all realize like how much we actually enjoy working when it's at the right pace and it's not at this like, you know, crazy sprint that lasts an entire year.
Yeah, I definitely feel like something that we should try to do in 2017 is instead of having, 6 weeks where we're all off, maybe maybe we still take 6 weeks off over the year, but maybe like spreading it out where we have a full week off as a team throughout the year sporadically. I feel like
I was thinking about
that's
this.
the balance.
Yes. So do you know, like Sean McCabe, Sean West, I think is his website. So he, I think, and you know, don't quote me on this exactly, but I think he does 6 weeks of work and then he has every 7th week is a sabbatical week. So built into his schedule. And I know he's talked about it on his podcast and like how he technically does this and like, you know, a practical sense, like how the logistics are. But I think it's every 6 weeks, every single person on the team has to take a mandatory week off to like, and that's when like your best ideas come, because we're recording this right after the week of Christmas and the holidays, and we all took a week off and we're just, you know, chilling out. But in my week off, I was like coming up with the best ideas and coming up to solutions to problems that I had been trying, like forcing myself to try to figure out for the last couple months, that the answer just came to me when I stopped worrying about it and was just like turn my brain off. So I think it's necessary to have it, instead of being like this concentrated 6 weeks or 8 weeks in the middle of the year, having it spread out. And I think that would be so healthy for us and so like good for the business, where we would all come back with like new ideas.
Yeah, I love that idea. Okay, we'll talk about that more in detail later after this.
But yeah, I think one of the amazing things is that we were able to take all this time off. Our company was still generating 6 figures a month in revenue, even when we were taking time off. And we have the systems in place to do it. We have the team in place to do it. We have support in place to do it. We have, you know, the software and the automations and everything in order to do it. And that was just like this incredible feeling where I kept feeling like, is something going to break? Like, is something going to go wrong? And it didn't. And so just know for yourself that, you know, you can actually do less and make more money. You can actually like take time off and rest. And not only is everything going to be fine, you might actually like come back with like $1 million idea because you actually took time to rest. And I think everyone should practice that for sure. Even if you are sitting there being like, yeah, right, that sounds like a luxury that I don't have. I would really, really challenge you to do it anyway, even if you feel like you're super busy.
Yeah. And I just think, last thing on this, that for me, it validated that we didn't have to work, you know, to the bone to make money. It was like a good validation of, if we wanted it to be this way, it could still work. I think we also just learned we don't want it to be that way.
Yeah.
But,
we don't want it to be restful all the time.
But it's nice to feel like if something happened and we needed a slow period, we're set up where that would be okay.
Yeah.
And our business
and I know for me,
fail.
it was just a complete mindset. I had developed a mindset that was like, if I'm not on the brink of being hospitalized, then I'm not going to make my revenue goals. And I just had, from the last 2 years of working at that pace, I was like, if I don't feel like this, I'm almost dying feeling, then I'm not going to get that goal. And that was, I kept associating those two things. And so this year felt odd, but in a good way. And then I realized, look, feeling that like deep exhaustion is actually not what I need to pay in order to have the revenue and the goals that we want to reach.
Definitely. Love that.
That is not the cost that I need to pay.
Not at all.
All right. So lesson number 3 is that we learn to embrace that we are thought leaders and that we have more to teach than just the strategies and the practical stuff and, you know, the nitty gritty, which we of course love, but that we also have like innovative ideas and like opinions that are different. And this idea of thought leadership that we as a team and both you and I personally, I think used to kind of shy away from and think of as like, well, I don't want to be like conceited or cocky.
Yeah.
And now we're realizing like, you know what, putting a really good quote that I came up with isn't weird. It's cool.
Well, and I think it's also just respecting your own opinions, valuing what you have. I don't know. It felt like this one moment, for me at least, I think I was, you know, if you guys know Gary Vaynerchuk, he's obviously great at being a thought leader and sharing his thought leadership and presenting himself as a thought leader. And I think it was over this year, I was kind of not studying what he was doing, but just taking a few minutes to actually look at what he was doing and realizing, Mariah says just as amazing quotes all the time and shares these amazing nuggets through live streams or Periscope or on webinars or in a blog post. And we are sharing as a company or in a business, great ideas and inspiration that people love to share on our behalf. And we weren't sharing it. We weren't presenting ourselves.
Yeah.
And we weren't showing that side of our business like we could. So it was kind of this fun moment of once I embraced that I'm a thought leader, you are a thought leader, our business is a thought leader, it was like, oh, it made me take our stuff more seriously. Not that I wasn't, but it was like this internal mindset shift of, wow, okay, we can make an impact. We do have opinions that are valuable. And it was just, like you said, I think I'd always shied away subconsciously because I didn't want to be conceited or I didn't want to seem like I thought I was the all-knowing, perfect person.
Right.
But there is a way to be a thought leader and still be humble and still respect others' opinions. And I feel like we finally embraced as a business and as individuals that we can be that in our industry.
Yep. Love it.
So that was good.
You've said it all.
Thanks.
Yeah. No, I think that was a big thing. That kind of leads into the mindset stuff that we've both been blossoming into in the last few months.
Yeah. So lesson 4 is mindset is not bullshit. It's critical, which I know like Maya Elias, we've talked to her lately about mindset stuff and she's been laughing a little bit that Mariah, what did she say the other day? That you were practicing mindset stuff even when you didn't believe in it.
She's like, even when you thought manifesting was bullshit, you were manifesting all this stuff around you. And you were doing all the mindset stuff. And you like, even when you were saying that it was totally bullshit.
Just
and
like
I didn't really realize
that's what it was.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because like, I think, Megan and I both are like, we're so practical. We're so like detail, we're just so about like, well, how is this going to work? And what is going to happen? And I know that last year, I think we had a conversation where we were talking about our significant others and we were both just like, well, we both have this intense belief that's just like, if you work hard enough, you will get your goal. Like whatever it is, no matter how crazy big it is, like we both just knew that hard work made anything possible. And I think the element we've added in the last few months or over this course of this year was like mindset also enables you to do that. Whereas we both used to be like, hard work solves every problem.
Yeah. I definitely feel like it's the balance. I mean, even over the holidays, I was talking to my sister-in-law and I was like, I truly, whether it's something I'm even like a sport, like I am not an athletic person, but I believe that if I decided I wanted to be an expert
you could
skier,
do it.
like if I put the time and the energy and the effort into it, I could be. And I just have this innate belief like with the hard work that I could be an expert at anything, which probably sounds crazy. But
no,
I just think it's a confidence in yourself and in your abilities that I've always relied on. And I do agree that is an element of mindset, like believing in yourself that much is a part of mindset. But the actual embracing mindset and manifesting has been new. Like I had read Get Rich Lucky Bitch by Denise Duffield Thomas a while ago and I loved it, but I feel like I implemented zero of it. It wasn't until I read You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero on the way to LA when we were meeting up that I felt like my whole mindset, for lack of a better word, changed, where I fully embraced the act of manifesting. And it is still with hard work. It's not like, I'm going to manifest a house and I'm going to sit on my couch and do absolutely nothing to make it happen. But like journaling your goals every day. You told me to do this. And that's part of manifesting is like spending time every morning writing out my big goals. And it's the same every day because I'm working towards the same things. But it was so crazy how I did that for like a week. And the next week was able to cross off like 3 of those. Just because it affected everything. Like it affects how you spend your day, what you focus on, what your priorities are. Anyways, I feel like I could talk about mindset a lot.
Well, we can have a whole other episode about this and just our own personal shifts around it and also just like how we're implementing it. I feel like we're both implementing mindset work in like a really practical way. Where like the same thing that like I think one of the reasons Maya was laughing was because I said, oh, well, I've had this Post-it note on my desk for the last 2 years that just says 10X on it. And even before I knew about that, there's like a book called 10X. There's all these like things about it. And I didn't know about any of those things, but I just knew that anything I did needed to have the potential to 10X our business. And if it wasn't going to have that potential, if it was only going to double our business, I'm just not going to fucking bother. So just having that on my mind, and that's what we've been able to do, is just continuously 10Xing and 10Xing. And it's like that, I didn't think of it as like a mindset thing, but now I see like, oh, looking at this every day really helps. Writing down your goal, even if you're writing down the same goal every day for a month, by the end of the month, this is just like you've said, this is absolutely crazy to me. I was actually just looking in my notebook, my goal journaling notebook before we got on, and I was looking at the stuff I'd written down in August versus now, and literally every single things that I thought were just like absolutely so far away came true. It's so weird. Awesome. And I don't think it's because of magic. I just think it's because like it was on my mind and I was taking little steps to make it happen. It was like, oh, like this little, I made this connection with this person that led me to this connection. And I followed the things that were kind of appearing in front of me to make it happen. And I had to take a lot of action to do it. But at least it was something that I was reminded of was my ultimate goal every day. Yeah.
And I think another thing about mindset that I want to touch on, because again, I think we could have like our practices could be like a whole other conversation. Yeah. The idea that mindset is critical. And I think we also embrace that it affects everything. We talked a lot about our students. Yes. And why our students who are in the same course and have all the same resources, and even those students, if you get as granular as like maybe if we're focusing on the students who are in the same life situation, like single, same age bracket, whatever, you could have two people living almost identical styles of life, and one could take the course and succeed crazy, and one could never meet their goals. And we were just talking about why do we have students with the same resources having different outcomes? And I think we really embraced that our students' mindset is a critical part of their success. Yeah. And if they come into this not believing that they can launch a signature course and actually hit these goals, then they won't. And I think that was a really new shift for us. And I think in 2017, we're going to find ways, not that we will suddenly be mindset experts, but I think we're going to have it in the back of our minds as we revise and update our programs. Like, how can we address that? Or like, what lesson do we need to add that can empower them to actually believe that this can happen or to have the right mindset? Right.
Because if you come into the course, any of our programs just fundamentally believing that it's not going to work for you, then like you'll subconsciously do all these things that will make it not work for you. Yeah. And so it's kind of been interesting for us to figure out like how we can help people almost like, we give you all the practical strategies, but how can we give you confidence? How can we give you belief? How can we give you like, you have to be a little bit crazy to do something and just know intrinsically like this has to work out. This is going to work out if I believe that it will. And if I come at it from a place of like, I'm here to help people need this, I'm good enough. My course is good enough. I have something valuable to share. And so how we can help people do that. And I know for me, like in the past year went through so many, like, it was like I was the opposite of a mindset person. Like I didn't care about mindset or anything, and I didn't need it to get to a certain level. Like to get to our first $1 million in revenue, I did not think about mindset. I didn't need it, which I think is the opposite of a lot of people. I think a lot of people start getting into mindset when they're like trying to reach like their 6-figure goal or their $1 million goal or something. And we hit $1 million without me like thinking about any of that. But what I found was that after that point, I just needed the mindset so much in order to be able to get to the next level. And that was where, for me, it was like, I am going to just die on the vine and cripple myself if I don't deal with some of this mindset stuff that's really holding me back from the next level. So, I know for me, it was like, I was definitely all very much against this type of stuff until I hit a certain level. And then it was like, wow, I really need this in order to cope with a lot of the new challenges that you deal with at the 7-figure level. I need this in order to imagine what things look like at the 8-figure level. I need this in order to move forward. And so for me, we talked about You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero, which is a great book that we both read. We talked about Get Rich Lucky Bitch, which really helped me during that time of wondering, like, what am I going to do with money? Like what, or like, what is the purpose of money? Once you kind of hit these milestones, you wonder, like, what am I going to, like, what's the point of it, kind of? And so then I realized, like, what my purpose is in terms of what our goals are, and like why we actually do need $500 million in order to change the world in the way that I want to change the world, and that it's not just like for fun. And then the other book that really helped me was called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, which just talked about how at every level you're gonna come across something. It's normal to like hit a block at every level, and how to get through it, and how to feel at each level, and that it's normal. And so that really, really helped me. And that was one of my favorite books for mindset. And I use a lot of the tools that he talks about in that book on a daily basis.
I feel like I need to read that book still.
I know,
it's in my Kindle library. I just haven't started it. So that's on my reading list.
Are you willing to feel good all the time, Megan? That's the question that he poses is, are you really willing to feel amazing all the time? Or like, are you going to keep making yourself feel crappy for no reason?
Ooh,
I know.
Zinger.
It's good.
Okay. And if you want, if you didn't catch the author or the title of any of those books, we do have those linked in the resources for this podcast in the show notes and below this video if you're watching on YouTube.
Okay. Awesome. So that was lesson 4. Lesson 5 is that creating a community has been one of the most fulfilling and amazing things that we did this year. And we always had a community, like Femtrepreneur by design. I always say it's not mariahcause.com for a reason, because Femtrepreneur is a movement. It is a community, just by existing and giving everyone a name that they can, men and women all over the world call themselves femtrepreneurs, and that's why we created it. But we created a Facebook group, the Femtrepreneur Facebook group, which you guys can join us at thefemshow.com/community. And we created this Facebook group, and it's just been the best thing in the world. We created it at this time when I told Megan and Bev that I felt disconnected from our audience because our email list had grown past a certain point where it felt like I didn't know the name of everyone on the email list. I didn't know who our customers were. I didn't know like what they were worried about, what their questions were, or, what is important to them, or what do they really want. And I felt this sort of disconnect as our audience grew. And creating the Facebook group is just like, I can hang out and talk to you guys on a one-on-one basis literally every day. And I spend all my time in there because it's fun. Like, I love it.
Well, I think also too, like you mentioned, we had versions of a community. We were on Slack for each course, but there's a difference between like a course-based group and just like an open to the public group.
Yeah.
And I think that Facebook, having a public Facebook group has been just a game changer. Mariah she's not in the inbox for Femtrepreneur anymore. And so I think that was one of the main reasons you were feeling that disconnect, is because we have a team who's helping answer those emails, which is great. And that's the right way to grow your business. But because of it, you weren't answering those emails. You weren't reading every email. You didn't have a good pulse on where everyone was all the time. And having the Facebook group has been just an amazing way to have that pulse and see how everyone's feeling and engage with them quickly and easily. And I think we've talked about this in another podcast, where having a Facebook group has been an asset during launch times also, because we can communicate if an email system, the day the internet failed because of the DDoS attacks or whatever, our Facebook group saved us because emails weren't sending, but Facebook group was working. So we were able to communicate and answer and help provide good customer service and good customer experience through the Facebook group. So it's been a game changer in so many ways. I think the most impactful for our community and for us has definitely been just the community aspect, the relationship building potential, and being able to connect our audience to each other, the relationships that they're building within the Facebook group too. So I think of all the things we're talking about and the things we're going to touch on after this, to me, the Facebook group was probably the best, like maybe of all of it.
Yeah. And I would really encourage anyone there, like if you're like sitting there thinking like, well, how am I going to grow the Facebook group? What am I going to do? I just really encourage you to start a Facebook group. Just set it up. I mean, I know one of our students who set up a Facebook group, not expecting it to grow. And I think within like the last 2 months, it's gone from 0 to like something like 40,000. Like, I don't even know how big it is now. But it just exploded. It just like absolutely exploded. And it was just about this really niche topic. And so anyone who's listening, set up a Facebook group. It's going to be an amazing way, not only to market yourself and communicate with your customers and answer their questions, but just a really good way to build relationships and create a space for whatever your niche is for people to find resources there.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So lesson number 6 was that we learned that sharing our story is important. And so for me, for the longest time, again, I think a lot of shifts have happened this year just in the way I think about things. But I thought that the only thing that made me valuable was like the strategies I could teach, the practical information I could share. Like, I need to share lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3. It needs to be very structured. And that's how I think. And I love that. Like, obviously that's how I operate, and how I break things down is by like taking these big complicated things and making them into a system and a thing that really is simple and makes sense to me. That's like why I do this job, is because really just for myself, and then I get to share it with you guys and teach back how I've processed and simplified a lot of systems and things that I learned. But I guess like I used to think that was the only value that I had, was sharing like a really practical step-by-step strategy. Whereas in the last few months, I've realized that sharing my story and sharing my background and sharing the journey I've gone on to get here has intrinsic value. By sharing that, I've affected other people's lives, and I've changed other people's lives, not because I taught them a step-by-step system, but because I talked about my struggle with depression and anxiety, or because I told them that a couple years ago I didn't have any of this stuff and I figured out how to make it work. And sharing the story has had just as much of an impact as sharing the strategy.
Yeah, I think also when you do start to grow a large successful business and you have a big audience, I think it's easy for people to assume that you have some special advantage, or you are the exception and no one else could achieve that. And I think that was something interesting we realized that it's good to address, and that by sharing your story, it makes you real, and it makes your journey real, and people relate to you, this person that maybe at one point they thought they couldn't relate to. And I think we just get the most feedback. Anytime you share anything, we get the most emails, the most response, the highest engagement when you are sharing that story. And I feel like that applies to every business owner, is that you need to share your story. You need to be vulnerable, because that's where the connection is. No one wants to buy from a perfect robot. No one cares about that. That's not enjoyable to watch or engage with. So I think sharing those vulnerabilities not only inspires people to overcome what they should overcome or can overcome, but also just makes you real, makes you tangible, makes you feel like a friend. And all of those things are very important and impactful. And I think we'll touch on our impact next, but one thing also, since you do have a story that is about overcoming some things in your life and sharing some vulnerabilities, I think it has such greater meaning and impact because of that also. Like, because there are people who feel like they can't have a business because of that, or they feel like they're doing something wrong, or they're a failure right now. And I think by sharing your experience with that, you open their eyes to that they can overcome this. This isn't like an
you can actually make it an advantage. I think that's one of the things I've been thinking about, is like, it's not that I didn't like cure my depression or like overcome, like I didn't like get over it and like stop. I still have, anxiety and depression and a host of other things that I haven't publicly shared about. But like there's not, and I think some people are like, oh, you've done so much despite that. And I'm like, no, I've done so much because of it. Because like I've done so much because I couldn't have a real job. I've done so much, like I'm grateful in a way for all the things that I deal with on a daily basis, mental health wise, because I had this opportunity to be like, well, I'm just not going to be able to have a regular life like most people who go to a 9-to-5 job. That's never going to work for me. So it forced me to figure out something else. And even in the business that we've built, I'm always very clear that like this business needs to be able to run without me, because there will be periods of time when I'm just completely useless. And that is how we design the business. Like, we designed a business that makes all this profit when we're not working, because that was because of who I am and how the business needs to be able to function when I'm not functioning. So in a way, it's like, you know, it's not despite the challenges, it's because of the challenges that we've been able to grow such a successful business so quickly.
I love that. That's such a good thing. So definitely sharing our story, we've realized and fully embraced this year. And I think we're just going to continue to do that in 2017.
Yeah. For sure. Okay, so lesson number 7 is that we learned that what we do has so much greater meaning than just helping people make money.
Yeah. And I know you have a grand vision, Mariah, that is really inspired me when you shared it with me. But I think on a lower, not a lower level, but on like a, I don't know, the way I fully
like a
embrace
personal,
that. Yeah, maybe a personal level, the way I fully embrace that what we do has a greater meaning was emails that we've gotten from students, either about the success they've had from our programs and how life-changing it is, but how our students impact the world around them. That's even more to me. Like, we had an email from a student who was creating a course about, it was like sexual abuse, right?
Yeah.
And I remember reading that story and what she was going to do with this course, and the response it had. Actually, I think she shared it in our Facebook group. I don't think it was in an email. And the response from our Facebook group was overwhelming. And people were very vulnerable and honest, and received her course idea very well. But it was this moment for me of seeing it and being like, what we're teaching, like you said earlier, is more than step-by-step instructions. It's more than how to make money from a course. Like, we are enabling people to change the world and impact other people. And so I think I knew
like that course is going to change the world. Right. I'm like 100% sure.
It's like this new layer. Like, I knew that we taught people we enabled our students to change their lives. But I think this realization that therefore they are changing everyone else's life and changing the world. It was like this
and that's actually part of our mission is like part of the I was with my mastermind a couple weeks ago, and I explained the math behind the mission. And our mission is to within the next 2 years to change 10 million lives through online courses, through these world-changing, life-changing online courses that our students are able to make. And the math behind that is that we will help 10,000 people. In turn, they each will help 1,000 people go through their course. So by this sort of exponential, like, spider web of impact, we're able to give someone else the tools to share their tools with 1,000 people. And then those people might go off and help another 1,000 people. And so we can kind of be this catalyst for helping millions of people by giving our students the tools that they need to go and then change thousands of lives. And that's why we do this every day. I love it. Yeah, that's the math behind the mission.
I love it. I just think that has been a new level for me this year of just feeling, I always felt proud of what we did. I always felt I always supported it and felt like it was good and ethical and I had no issues. But I think realizing this next layer just makes it changes the way you feel about everything you do and the impact that you have. It's not just an email to market for market's sake. Like, this is an email that could change things going forward. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I just love that.
No, I think that's huge. It's like we see our students every single day changing. It's not an individual life changed. It's all the lives of their students. And we see how far and wide that can reach. And also that we not to brag, but like, we attract literally the best people in the world. Like, our students are just these like amazing people who are looking to create financial independence, but also just really deeply care about spreading their knowledge and helping more people. The reason people come to us to create a course is because they want to help people at scale, not because they themselves care about making $1 million or they themselves, want a 6-figure business. It's because they know that stuff comes, all that stuff is a side effect of helping thousands of people. And they ultimately join our course because they know that that's what having a course, an online course, is going to allow them to do, is like, oh, I can, I've worked with 5 clients and I've changed those 5 clients' lives. I can now go help 1,000 people change their life.
Yeah.
So yes, we definitely have realized, like, in a really big way, how many people we just end up tipping the domino, and a lot of people get affected by it.
Yeah. And for anyone listening with your business, I encourage you to think about your greater impact too, because I believe every business owner, no matter what you teach, I do believe that you have a greater impact than you've probably embraced. So try to, like, spend some time and think about what that is, because I do feel like it adds so much clarity and purpose greater than you might have now.
Yep. And for me, this is a really big part of getting out of a pretty big, like, personal crisis earlier this year, where I was just feeling like nothing we did had any meaning. And then I was like, oh, and then I looked around and I got the feedback, and I was like, we do have a bigger purpose. It's not to make $1 million. Exactly. It's to do a lot more things that we are now running fiercely towards. All right, so that was lesson 7.
Yeah, so lesson number 8 was to keep trying new things. That was something we definitely did this year. We did a podcast, which you're listening to now. We started doing video. We did a 3-part video series. And not only did all these things feel like they worked out and they were successful, but I think they challenged us in new ways. They challenged us creatively. They allowed us to serve our audience in a different way. And I think we've enjoyed doing them all. It's been a really fun experience to learn new things and deliver content in different ways.
Yeah, get out of your comfort zone and do a new thing. I know for us, again, we talked about this in another episode, or maybe it was just that video where we talked about, like, the 4 new things that we're trying.
Yeah, that was before we started. That was right before we started the podcast.
Before. Okay, yeah. So, like, we talked about these marketing strategies that we were starting to do, and it was because we had, like, gotten into this kind of rut of, like, oh, our marketing strategies are webinars and this and that. And it was like we were just repeating the same thing again and again. And I think what all of you guys will realize is that you'll master some sort of marketing strategy, like whether it's webinars or, whatever it is, Instagram, whatever it is that you do for your business that you're good at, you'll master it and it will become repetitive and boring. And you'll just need to, in order to grow your business, you'll need to go find some other way. So whether it's YouTube or podcasting or getting out of your comfort zone and starting, I don't know, doing something crazy that I don't even know exists yet, you're going to have to do those things in order to grow. You can't just keep doing the thing you're comfortable with.
Yeah. So trying new things definitely helps you, like, break through a plateau and get to the next level. So I think we've enjoyed that and definitely feel like that was a lesson we learned and something we will continue to do going into 2017. Definitely.
Lots of new stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so lesson 9 is that it is safe to invest in the business. And this is really, this is something I think I've talked a little bit about with our episode with Parker from Evolve Finance. I talked a little bit about my own, like, money stuff, and I know we'll talk about that more in the future in other episodes, but just that I always had this feeling that our success was a fluke, that it was a one-time thing, that it was going to come and go, really quickly, that I shouldn't ever invest. I shouldn't put money back into something because I was just so convinced that it was like a fluke that we were successful. And that's actually something that Denise Duffield Thomas talks about in Get Rich Lucky Bitch, is like, stop thinking that you're a fluke. Stop thinking that time you made a lot of money was a fluke, and then start acting like that's just how your life is. And so I was like, okay, I can embrace that. This wasn't just like some weird thing that happened to me. It's something that I created and that I can continue to create. And that gave me the confidence to invest a lot more into the business than I had previously thought possible, because I was always afraid that if I put it back into the business, but the business is just this, like, thing that's going to go poof, that, that wouldn't make any sense. So really changed my mindset around that. We hired so many people this year, which is amazing. It's my favorite thing to do, is to build our team. It's like the pride and joy of my life is just to build this amazing team. So we hired fearlessly. We started spending money on Facebook ads a couple months ago, which was something, something I really had to get over mindset wise, and realize that it's not bad to pay for leads. Like, I always had this weird thing of like, well, that's a cheat. Like, I can just buy like subscribers, like that feels like cheating. I have to work super, super hard for each individual subscriber. That was my mindset before. I thought it was like, cheating or something if I paid for it. And so, we've invested tons back into the business really fearlessly, knowing that this is actually going to take us to the next level, not drain us or something.
Yeah. I mean, to me, number 9 is something that is really kind of related to mindset in a way still.
Yeah.
I think this is something that you as the owner had to deal with, and something that is like, I didn't even know you felt this way until we started talking about how we were going to start spending. And so I think it's a great thing to touch on, because I don't think a lot of people talk about it. But I also feel like it kind of is a summary of a lot of things we did. Like we hired experts fearlessly, and we took ourselves to the next level of, you hired a new lawyer, and we've are taking things to the next level in our business. And we're trying to, you were talking about something that made me remember how we wanted to become not more exposed. We wanted more exposure. Like we're trying to increase brand awareness. So like the Facebook ads isn't just for list building, it's for building our brand awareness and kind of embracing that we are comfortable doing that, and we want to do that, and we're ready to have a bigger awareness. And so I think that, it's safe to invest in the business also had this huge ripple effect across all layers of our business and what our goals were and what we're working towards now.
Yeah, and it's funny because some people we talk to and some people I know don't have that issue where they're afraid to invest. Some people are just like, no, like I love investing in my business. Like I never worried about it. I never thought twice about it. It's something I've always done. Whereas I was a complete hoarder and just really, I was really just resistant to investing in a big way. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, let's just do little tiny investments and see what happens. Whereas now I'm more, it's also a side effect of having the capital where spending $10,000 on something isn't going to make or break us. And we have $10,000 to experiment with, which I know not everyone has.
Yeah.
So we, and especially with the Facebook ad stuff, Facebook ads are not a guarantee. And so we got into that situation, and it was in a good place where our ad strategist was like, you guys, I'm glad. It's nice working with the company who it's not like that $10,000 that we set aside for ads is if it doesn't have a return, I'm going to be broke. You know what I mean? So we had this thing of this is whatever happens to this money, we're safe to invest it. And if it comes out good on the other side, that's perfect. If it doesn't work, lesson learned.
Yeah. And I think,
and it did work.
Yeah. I do think that no matter how much business or how much income your business is generating, wherever you're at financially, I think you can still apply investing in your business. This is still a lesson that's applicable. I know for me, hiring my first team member was super scary. And I was like, oh, now I'm suddenly I have to have this much money every month. And it was even though I had never had an issue, I've always had more than that. It wasn't a huge investment, for very, very little hours, but it was kind of scary. And this commitment to take it seriously and to make this much money. It was scary, but it was also so exciting when it happened. And something related to this, I know Mariah and I, if you follow us on Instagram, we've both talked about this separately, but this year we got your best year, 2017, which is a workbook, and we'll link to it below. One of the things, I was reading through it over the holidays, one of the things that Lisa Jacobs, who is the creator, talks about is how if you want to have a $100,000 business, you have to make decisions like you have a $100,000 business. And I know this is a principle a lot of people have talked about. It's not, I don't think it's an original idea, but I think it was so refreshing to read because it reminded me of that. If I want to operate if I want a business to be a certain level, I have to operate like it already is.
From that level.
Yeah. You have to go ahead and commit to making it happen and start operating that way. So it's a great reminder for those of you who are stuck in the bootstrapping phase, because bootstrapping, I know everyone does it and it's a great thing to get started with, but at the same time, it kind of holds you back because you're doing it all and it's taking so much more time. So I challenge you, no matter where you're at in your business, if you're listening, how can you, what level do you want your business to be at? Where's your goal? And what can you change to start operating like that level already? even if
and
it's
it's
just
really
one thing.
freeing, I've noticed, because like for us, I'm looking over at my board and like we have a spending plan for next year that is at the level of the business will be at by the end of next year. But guess what? It gives me the permission to go ahead and start spending like the business we're going to be at the end of next year, because the reality is that we need to do that in order to get there. It's like I can't be a $5 million a year business or a $10 million a year business but spending like a $2 million a year business.
Yeah.
So in order to get there, like I have to, and I've made the spending plan. So it's like, you have, X number of dollars to play with, start playing with it.
Yeah.
Like start investing it in the things that it's not like I'm going to be the $10 million business and then be able to spend the money. It's like, you're going to have to do that before.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to have, I guess, the permission of like, you've set aside this number. And it's also kind of,
it's motivating.
Belief in yourself and that's where you're headed. So if if you're aiming to have a $50,000 a year business and you want to spend $5,000 of that on business expenses and courses and Facebook ads and all that stuff, like make a spending plan and then figure out how you're going to start doing that now. Start now. Don't start when you're a $50,000 a year business. You have to start now.
I love that. Okay. So that was lesson 9. Lesson 10 is implement a no panic policy. This is something Mariah came up with and had operated under, but we officially made it a business policy. And I feel like it's amazing. It's been so great.
Makes everyone's life better.
Yeah. So how would you explain the no panic policy?
So for a really long time, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this too, when something bad happens in your business, it feels like it's going to be like the end of all things. So it's like if someone said something mean to you on social media, or your website went down, like Squarespace goes down every once in a while, and it's like, oh my God, like, what if I lose 5 email subscribers that were going to come in during that 5 minutes?
Well, it's like your heart starts racing and you start freaking out.
You're freaking out. You're just like sweating and like cursing and you're so upset and it feels like the end. And I think this is something I had to learn over time. Like this isn't something that in the beginning of my business, I think I would have had the insight or the knowledge to really be able to be like, this isn't a reason to panic, because it truly felt like everything was a reason to panic. But now knowing that, tons of fucking shit has happened and none of it destroyed us. And so now we have the insight to be like, nothing is worth panicking over. Nothing is worth that heart racing, crushing psychological pain that you put yourself in. Nothing is going to destroy you that, once and for all. There's just no reason to panic. And so for me, it was really about implementing the no panic policy as a team, because I need my team, I need everyone to not have a no panic policy. So if we get an email from someone who's upset, you can't be freaking out about it in the Slack, because that's going to make me upset. Yeah. And the whole name of the game is keep Mariah calm. So everyone knows that we don't panic. The website's down. Okay, what can we do about it? We have a fucking crazy impersonator trying to rip us off. Okay, what can we do about it? I'm not upset. Comes with the territory, whatever. What's our plan of action? Yeah. There's no panic. No one is allowed to panic. I'm not allowed to panic. And it's just really changed how we approach a problem, because I feel like we used to spend like even if it's only like 15 minutes, it's like we spent 15 minutes panicking and then we got to the part where we came up with a solution. Mm-hmm. Now we just like kind of skip the dumb panic part and then just go right to, okay, what are we going to do about it?
It's almost like a no drama policy, because I think especially if you have a team, even if it's just 2 of you, once you start growing a team, I think it becomes really clear. Everyone supports the team. Like no one's trying to cause drama, but by like lots of exclamation marks and emojis and like all caps and like being really freaked out about it, like it creates this drama and it creates a panic. And I think by implementing a no drama, it's like a no panic, but I do feel like the impact is like there's no drama.
Yeah,
like
there's no drama.
Dramatic things may happen in theory, but like we're able to be like, oh, did you see this? Oh, well, what about this? Like, how can we solve it? And you just like, can solve problems
here's
faster.
A ripoff. Someone's selling your course as a ripoff. oh, that sucks. Okay, well, we have a process in place. We send it to the lawyer. They send a cease and desist, and that's done. It's not like, whereas I think we used to spend an hour being like, that bitch. Yeah. Like, that's the word. Like, oh, I feel so personally slighted. And it's like, how could they? Did they think we wouldn't notice? Like, just, we used to spend like so much time, like, just being like,
well, it would consume us a little bit.
Dramatic, yeah. And I think, and now it's just like,
even if okay, so we've implemented the no panic policy for Femtrepreneur. I think it's bled over into my own business as well, because it's just this like calm and this confidence that it's all going to work out. It's all going to be okay. Believing enough in your business and your success that like a crazy thing that happens isn't going to ruin you or your business. Yeah. And you know, we had implemented it when the internet went down for a day during our launch. And it was just like, okay, this sucks. Like, everyone can totally be vocal about it. Like, we agree, like, this is terrible. But, like, no one's freaking out. No one's heart is, like, racing. We're not sweating. We're not, like, panicking. Because I think anyone who's a business owner has had those, like, panic moments.
Yeah.
And it's just been amazing. And I think it's transformed beyond just like the Slack communication. It's affected the way I personally handle what would have been an emergency or a panic. It's just like, oh, okay, I will do what I can, and this is what I can do, and then I will feel good about doing what I can do, and then I will move on. It will not let this throw us off or like affect how we do as a business or as individuals. And so
I mean, in general, honestly, no one else is going to affect your business. Like, the bottom line is, like, for good or bad, you, and this is something that like I've written down, is like, just you are 100% responsible for everything that happens in your business. No one else can affect you. So that's realizing that if someone copies you or rips you off, that doesn't affect your sales at all. Doesn't impact you at all. If someone is selling a bootleg of your course online, doesn't affect you at all. If someone else is saying something mean about you and sending you an email saying that they hate you and they hate your style and they hate the way you talk, doesn't affect me at all. Doesn't fucking affect my sales. Don't care at all. So like, there's all these, like, for good or for bad. And the same thing with like, oh, someone else isn't going to like give you the exposure you need to take your business to the next level. Someone else isn't going to like give you a lucky break. Someone else isn't going to like open a door for you. Everything is your responsibility. The only thing that could like take your business down would be you. And there's just no way that like any single outside force is not going to be a reason to panic ever.
Yeah, definitely. So highly recommend everyone implement a no panic policy. Even if you don't have a team and it's like your policy, like it changes everything.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
All right.
Our last lesson 11, is we learned this year that having a core offering that everything else revolves around is just the best way to do it. So we have Launch Your Signature course, which is our core offering. We do sell other products. It's not like we only have one product. But everything is with that end product in mind. And it's kind of this full journey. And everything we do is really targeted around the core offering. And I feel like that's just been, we don't get distracted. Like, new ideas we can still act on and embrace, but we're able to analyze strategically. Does it fit? How does it make sense?
Does it fit in with the core thing? Does it revolve around?
Yeah, like how would it affect everything else? And are we happy with that, or is that not what we want?
Yeah. It's like we're creating all these resources for this our one ideal customer. And that person has the ultimate goal of creating an online course-based business that changes the world and helps people, and they want to help their students. And so it's like, okay, well, Launch Your Signature course is the core of that, but there's also like, well, when they're starting out, they need your first 1K for list building, or then they want to do more webinars, they need Webinar Rockstar, or, you know, oh, if we have this, you know, they need to learn funnels, but that's after the fact. So there's all these things around Launch Your Signature course that support that same person at different stages of their business. But it still all revolves in for the same customer. And we create other resources and other products for that same person with that same goal, so that, and we know where it fits in like a linear way, where it's like, where on the journey would they need this? If I came up with an idea and it was something like up over here that made no sense and wasn't connected, we wouldn't make it. unless I started a separate company to do it. So it's not like we're confusing our customer by being like, here's all this stuff that kind of tangentially related. It doesn't really make sense. It's like, this is all part of one very, very specific journey that you can go on. And we also learned that retiring products, blog posts, content, ideas that no longer fit with the business or brand is totally okay. Yeah. And not to feel bad about it, not to have like an emotional attachment to it, but just realizing like, you know what, this doesn't support. I thought that my business was going to go off in this direction, ended up really going in this direction. We're super focused on this one core offering and only making things that support it. So it's okay to get rid of that stuff that like is kind of old and doesn't align with your brand anymore.
Yeah. To me, that's one of the best lessons that people can take from our lesson is that, like, I love how you phrased it, not being emotionally attached to what you create. And yeah, that's hard. Like, it is super
easier said than done.
It's not easy. Like, I remember I retired some blog posts this year where I just unpublished them, and they were blog posts that brought in traffic. And we did the same thing with Femtrepreneur. They would bring in traffic, but ultimately they're bringing in the wrong person. That's traffic that is not supporting our end goal and not attracting the right person. So, I love this vision, and it's okay if you don't know the big picture. Maybe you don't know in your business what your core offering will eventually be, but you have a general idea. Like Mariah didn't start out.
It reveals itself to you.
Like you didn't start out day one at Femtrepreneur and be like, this is what my product suite will be like.
Right.
And know the final picture. It's like, it is a gradual process. So I know for me in my business, I'm still in this stage of, I don't know what the final product will, everything's evolving, but I don't know what the end goal or the end journey might be, but I can still start taking steps that are smart and strategic to creating it. So I think this is something everyone can learn from and implement in their business, whatever stage they're in, is the general end goal of having one type of customer that you're serving through a journey. Yeah. And if you create a blog post 2 years ago that is related to nothing about what you talk about now, it's okay to archive it. It's okay to stop selling a product. It's okay to do those things. And you should, because having that clarity as a business and an entrepreneur makes a huge difference.
Yeah. And it's not like for example, we recently retired Fuck Yeah Funnels, but that doesn't mean we just like killed Fuck Yeah Funnels and like buried it. It just means that it doesn't make sense for us to sell that on the front end as something you can go to our website and buy, because technically you have to already have gone, like it won't really be useful to you unless you've gone through one of our Launch Your Signature course and you have the product created. Yeah. So it doesn't make sense for it to be like out on our website as a low price product. But what it does make sense as is like a upsell only to the people who have already purchased and gone through successfully Launch Your Signature course. So it's not like we got rid of it. It was just like, oh, this makes much more sense as a back end product for our existing students rather than it being something that anyone can buy.
Yeah, that's such a good point. So
you can still be strategic about like, you're not just like, we're still good about like making use of the content that we've created, but it's smarter and you'll always evolve as you go on.
Yeah. And going into 2017, I think having this clarity and this focus will affect all the decisions we make. It's kind of like a guiding, like a guideline that you can look back and analyze your decisions and help you make decisions for your business. So I think that making this decision in 2016, it was really successful, and I am excited to see how it guides us as we go through 2017.
Absolutely.
So well, those were our 11 lessons. I know we talked about a lot, we mentioned some great resources. So if you want to go to thefemshow.com/22 for the show notes to this episode, you can get links to all the books, all the episodes we mentioned, all that good stuff. And if you want to discuss this episode with us and our amazing community of ambitious entrepreneurs, make sure you join our free Facebook group at thefemshow/community, or thefemshow.com/community. The .com is important.
It's important. And you guys definitely just come and hang out in the Facebook group. Yeah. Like, we're in there literally every day. It's just super fun, and there's tons of awesome people in there.
And now we'd love to hear from you. What's one of the lessons that you learned in 2016? Leave your answer in the comments below.
And if you want to ask us if you want to ask us a question that we can answer on the show, just like we did today, go to thefemshow.com to submit your question for us, and we'll definitely give you a shout out on the show.